Today, the fighting is intensifying in Gaza's two biggest cities, Khan Yunis and Gaza City. In the north, entire neighbourhoods have been flattened, and across the enclave, some 85% of the Palestinian population has been displaced. Around 18,000 people there have been killed since the war began, and civilians simply say there is nowhere safe for them to go amid the battles in the streets and the aerial bombardments as well. Well, let's start the programme this half hour with some analysis of what's happening in Gaza. Joining me live is Rob Geist Pinfold. He's a lecturer in peace and security at the University of Durham in the United Kingdom. Thanks very much indeed, sir, for speaking to us on France 24.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been more than 2 months of war in Gaza. Israel is using huge force from the air and on the ground, and we know the impact on civilians has been and continues to be catastrophic. Now, militarily speaking, at this time, is that strategy by Israel working? Is it winning the war?
Well, in the short term, I think the answer is things are going quite well for Israel. Obviously, you have to take these figures they are questionable because they are coming from Israel, but Israel claims to have killed over 7,000 Hamas fighters. Now, that's an organization with a pre-war total of around 25,000 fighters. So that is a significant blow to Hamas. If true, it would really suggest that Israel has managed to significantly degrade that organization's capabilities to fight war. Israel has reached parts of the Gaza Strip it has not had a presence in for decades. And this is not just a change from recent conflicts between Israel and Hamas. Israel has not been in Khan Yunis, for example, inside Gaza City since the early 1990s, which is such a sustained and prolonged presence, which really suggests that Israel is not just here for the long haul and bedding down for a significant operation that isn't going to end anytime soon, but also that it has managed to maintain and entrench its presence. There are over 100 Israeli soldiers killed, but if you compare that to previous round of fighting, for example, in 2014, where nearly 70 Israeli soldiers were killed when Israel went nowhere near as deep into the Gaza Strip. This suggests that for the time being, the momentum, at least on the ground, strictly militarily speaking, is on Israel's side.
And you said this war is unlikely to end anytime soon. How long do you think it's going to last now? Because it does seem there's growing pressure from the Biden administration to bring this to an end, whether that's in a couple of weeks or perhaps a couple of months.
That's right, and that pressure is critical because we know in any war, especially wars like this, as asymmetric conflicts, that what goes on in the ground isn't the critical variable here. What matters is the political decisions at the top and indeed internationally speaking. Now, the Biden administration, in public at least, will say this is Israel's war. They choose when to escalate, where to escalate. They choose when to end. Now, that is not true. The US actually has a seat at Israel's national security decision-making table. It has done since the start of the war, and it will continue to do so even after the action concludes. Now, there have been increasing numbers of leaks from the Biden administration saying that they expect Israel to wrap this up in around a month. If true, this would create tension with Israel's government, who've demanded at least 2 more months to continue the fighting. So I suspect as time drags on and the civilian casualties escalate and Israel's presence looks less and less like a temporary occupation, you will see those disagreements, which are currently primarily private, getting moved to the public sphere as pressure against Israel increases.
And I'm interested in your view on what Israel's post-war plan may be then for Gaza, because you've written a book looking at Israel's occupations and exits in the past. So I wonder what lessons from history we might be able to draw from whether that's Gaza in the past or indeed South Lebanon to work out how Israel might behave here.
Well, what my book shows is in every instance of Israel's occupation, Israel has prioritized something that it calls strategic depth. Israel is a small country. It does not have a lot of territory. So it perceives that taking more territory outside of its borders and holding that territory indefinitely will bring more security because it will push the fighting away. from its borders. And I think we're seeing that strategy being operationalized once again in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu talking about wanting to be responsible for Gaza's long-term security, high-ranking Israeli ministers like the foreign minister saying that Gaza's territory will eventually shrink. This suggests that Israel intends to have some sort of territorial buffer zone around and in parts of the Gaza Strip. Whether it will be able to do that is another story, because the Biden administration is adamantly opposed to that policy. There's also the question of who will govern Gaza, who will look after Gaza's 2.3 million civilians and the ongoing and increasingly worse acute humanitarian crisis as a result of this war. Israel does not like to be an in-your-face occupier. It does not like, either in the West Bank or in Gaza or elsewhere, to look to be directly responsible for education, healthcare, policing, all of those essential everyday services. So the question is, who will do it? The US is pushing for the Palestinian Authority, backed by a multinational Arab-led force. Israel so far has vetoed that suggestion. That's come straight from the top from Netanyahu himself. So there's very much still an open question as to who governs Gaza the day this ends.
All right, huge questions, as you say, remaining, and lots more I'd like to talk to you about. But unfortunately, we are out of time, sir. Thank you very much indeed, Rob Geist Pinfold, talking to us there from the University of Durham in the UK.